the architecture of submission and the strategic audit. So these are two different series that I have written and researched extensively to try and highlight some of the things we're seeing going on in our country today, and really in some cases in the world. Some of you may have heard the term patriarchal hazing. I had to look it up. It's a buzz phrase on social media. It's used to explain everything from addiction to the epidemic of male loneliness. But if we're performing a true autopsy on our society, we have to look deeper than the hazing ritual. We have to look at the foundation that it's built upon. I call this foundation the architecture of submission. And this is the core premise. For 40 years, we've been incrementally building a society that prioritizes obedience over sovereignty. This isn't just a political shift. It's a physiological one. When we look at the research from corporal punishment in the home and our schools to the rigid hierarchies of our faith houses and civic groups, we can see a consistent pattern of trauma. This trauma doesn't toughen kids up. It actually physically changes their brains. It primes their amygdala for fear and anger. It bypasses the prefrontal cortex, the seat of our empathy and logic. So by the time patriarchal hazing comes around in adolescence, it's not fighting to get into an authentic self. It's simply moving into a vessel that was already framed and wired for submission. So the inductive evidence here is we see the results of this architecture everywhere today. We see it in the survivor's fallacy, the millions of people who say, well, I was spanked and I turned out fine, while they simultaneously advocate for a world built on retribution and dominance. We see it in the suspended animation of our current political zeitgeist. We live in a reality where the King of England has to lecture the American Congress on the limits of executive power. We see it in the right to rage exhibited by those who've paid their, quote, submission dues, unquote, and are now desperate to find someone below them to dominate. Those are the Karens and the racists who go out there and attack people, verbally and physically. They feel the right to do that, and they are genuinely perplexed when their victims don't submit, and that causes their rage. The rage that we see, that we all look at and are just like, what is wrong with that person? That's what this series is about. Whether it's Christian nationalism, misogyny, or authoritarianism, these aren't just ideologies. They're biological fits for a trauma-primed brain. So the purpose of this audit, and it's why I've launched two parallel series, the architecture of submission and the strategic audit. So we'll start with the architecture of submission. The architecture series examines the internal structure, the damage of how our institutions use trauma to render us desperate, lonely, and compliant. The audit series performs an autopsy on the systems themselves, the general contractors of this crisis, from the Reagan era to the present day. The sovereignty half of this country is asking a single question. Why is this happening? And I believe that if we provide the why and the how, if we offer a glimpse into the neuropolitical mechanics of this epidemic, we can stop reacting to the symptoms and start dismantling the architecture. This isn't an overnight task. It's been 40 years in the making, but the audit has begun. I'm Heath Curry, and this is a multidisciplinary autopsy of the systems that govern our lives.